Pikmin. Whether you love it or you hate it, you can say that this series doesn't have its charm. And the main reason it has so much charm is because of its creativity. One of the most creative elements of all Pikmin is definitely the enemies. Seriously, some of these enemies are actually bonkers. And the enemies that we're going to be talking about today are the Dweevils. Specifically the Dweevil family. Today, we're going to be talking about every member in the Dweevil family, ranking them from worst to best. Now, I am going to be ranking these on a few criteria. I'm going to be ranking these on how creative they are, how different they are, how strong they are as actual enemies in the game. So yeah, not much to really say or explain. I just want to add one more thing. If you're enjoying the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be notified of our next video. Without further ado, let's rank every Dweevil in Pikmin. Yeah, now, I don't think there's a single person that will be surprised with this. But yeah, I think that the Hydro Dweevil is the worst Dweevil. Now, yeah, there are quite a few reasons for this. First up, and this is a reason that applies to all Dweevils, it only has 150 HP, which is really low for a Pikmin game. Seriously, and it's not helped by the fact that purple Pikmin have a 100% chance to stun it, meaning that this guy is almost getting one shot. But that's not all. The main reason this guy is at the bottom spot is because of his ability. His ability is that he can shoot a jet of water that can drown Pikmin. But water is barely a nuisance as a hazard. And you are probably going to be bringing blue Pikmin to the areas where he's present in any way. So he just ends up being a useless enemy. But one thing I have to praise about him and all the other Dweevils is that their ability to pick up objects is pretty interesting. Like, it can create a ton of strategy, where there are a ton of Dweevils, and there are also a few objects that you have to collect. You can defeat the Dweevils, but then the Dweevil will pick up the corpse of the dead Dweevil, and you will be able to pick up the object without battling the other Dweevils. So yeah, it could be really interesting, but there are almost no scenarios where this could really work. I mean, there are a few, but there aren't any that the game uses. So yeah, overall, a pretty bad enemy, and yeah, it doesn't get much better from here. And at number 7, I have the Fiery Dweevil. Now, the Fiery Dweevil is a Dweevil I will have way less to talk about than the Wary Dweevil. The Wary Dweevil, I had a lot to talk about it because, I had to use it to explain the different characteristics that all the Dweevils had. Anyway, there isn't really much to talk about with the Fiery Dweevil. It's a Dweevil that spews out fire. Fire is also not really that dangerous of a hazard, taking 5 seconds to kill a Pikmin. So yeah, not really that dangerous. So for some reason, this Dweevil's coloration reminds me of some sort of, button that you should have clicked by now if you're enjoying the video. Yeah, and because of that, I think it deserves to rank a little bit higher than the other Dweevil. Yeah, without further ado, let's move on. Alright, at number 6, I actually have a tie between number 6 and number 5. Now, the tie is because of the Munch Dweevil and the Venom Dweevil having practically the same gimmick. They spew out poison. So yeah, while the Munch Dweevil does have 300 HP, I don't think they're different enough to warrant a different ranking. If I were to choose one over the other, I'd choose the Munch Dweevil since, well, Munch is way more interesting than, just Venom. Like, come on. You couldn't think of anything better than, Venom developers of Pikmin 4? Then why did you even change it? So yeah, honestly, pretty much the same enemy. So yeah, let's move on to number 4, where I have the Anode Dweevil. Now, the Anode Dweevil is probably the strongest Dweevil variant, and I actually kind of like it. It has the ability to use electricity, and unlike other Pikmin games, electricity is an instant kill. This means that you have to defeat it very quickly to be able to have your Pikmin survive. But, like I said, Dweevils only have 150 HP, so it's likely going to be extremely easy to do this. Now, it is one of the hardest varieties, not counting the volatile and the boss version I will mention because spoilers. But anyway, with all that said, besides its higher difficulty, its slightly higher difficulty, there's not really that much to talk about. It's just Dweevil but electricity. So yeah, let's move on to the top 3. Okay, and then number 3, I have the Ice Blow Dweevil. Now, in concept, this guy is not really that different from any other Dweevil. He's just a Dweevil that spews out ice. Ice isn't that dangerous of a hazard, especially since ice Pikmin are really strong, so you probably won't be, having other types of Pikmin out that much, so these guys are practically nullified. But there is one thing that makes these guys better than the others. Their Picklopedia entry. Their Picklopedia entry, instead of just talking about what makes them do what, it talks about the Dweevils in general and how their different diets with different plants make them have different colors. That's really interesting, and it's enough to place him above the other Dweevils. But I mean, come on. If a Picklopedia entry can make you rank number 3 in a list with 8 entries, then that just goes to show how bad the Dweevil family really is. Anyway, now let's move on to the top 2. And then number 2, I have the Volatile Dweevil. Now, this Dweevil is interesting since he's one of the few Dweevils that is in the group of Pikmin enemies that only appear in one game, despite Pikmin 4 having like 90% of its enemy roster consists of returning enemies with only a few actually unique enemies. Hold up. Pito Fork 94 year Choreo that. Anyway, so yeah, I say it's practically just like the Careening the Rich bug in this category. Since, as you saw in the meme, yeah, and this also makes it one of the more unique Pikmin enemies because it is very, different. Like, there aren't that many Pikmin enemies that walk towards you and explode. Yeah, pretty interesting. So it's really unique, it's really strong, and it's really interesting. So yeah, it's a pretty good contender for the number 1 spot. But there's only one enemy that could really have taken this spot. So yeah, let's just move on to the pretty obvious number 1. Okay, and then number 1, I have the Titan Dweevil. Now, this guy is really interesting because he is a gigantic Dweevil and is the final boss of Pikmin 2. Yeah, the weakest enemy in the game is the final boss of the entire game. So yeah, and he's a pretty tough foe. He has 5 things on his face that he uses as attacks. He can spray out fire, send out electrical charges, spray out poisonous gas, and launch water bubbles toward your Pikmin. He can also walk around, which does nothing to your Pikmin, but I just decided to mention it. He's a pretty difficult boss, and due to his various weapons, you need to bring various types of Pikmin. Or you can just bring yellow Pikmin to deal with the shock therapist. But the other attacks will certainly be pretty dangerous if you bring just one type of Pikmin. All of them also have pretty high amounts of HP, having 6,000 HP, with the Dweevil himself having like over 20,000 HP. So yeah, it's a pretty dangerous enemy. But the best part about this fight, definitely how it progresses. Basically, the further you get in the fight, the weaker he becomes, until he becomes just a big Dweevil that has no way of defending himself. All he can do is swat away your Pikmin, which does nothing. And when you beat him, and after he explodes into soap bubbles, Louie is dropped and you collect him and beat him. The theme also really well encapsulates this, getting more intense the further you get throughout the fight, until the final moment where he's finally defeated and you get the final treasure. But that's not all, because it is highly implied that Louie was controlling the Titan Dweevil. Yeah, it's a really interesting side point that kind of gets built up upon in Pikmin 4 with the ancient Firehound. So yeah, and that was my ranking on all the Dweevil. But what did you think about my ranking? Did you think some enemies got ranked too lowly? Did you think some enemies got ranked too highly? Let me know in the comments below. Also, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to be notified of our next video. Goodbye, and see you all next time on Caio Games.